Hello and welcome to this listening video. So today we will be answering these questions. Yes, we will be working together on this IELTS listening question, and it's a planned question, as you can see. From my experience, I've realized that many students actually find map and planned questions quite difficult. And personally, I believe this can be one of the easiest question types. Yes, actually, they are one of my favorites. And if you know what you're doing, you know what to expect, and you have the right strategies, this question type can actually be a walk in the park. Yes, I believe that. So today we will be looking at this particular question. This is a planned question. The strategies for plan and map questions are quite similar. So I'll just make reference to map also here and there, but mainly we will focus on this planned question for today. All right, so we will be answering these questions together. Yes, and but before we go right into the listening and the answering of the questions, I want us to lay some foundation, also some strategies that you should keep in mind when you're answering a planned question. All right, so first of all, the first thing to do any day, anytime for any type of question is to read the instructions carefully. Very important. This is, a no-brainer, but you'll be surprised how many students actually skip this. And because of that, they would pay a high price. Yes. So you should read the instructions carefully and see what it's saying. So we're going to do that right away. And this instruction says, label the plan below. Choose 5 answers from the box and write the correct letters A to I next to questions 11 to 15. So there are 2 things I want you to pay attention to in this instruction. First of all, this instruction comes with a list of options. All right, so there are 2 basic ways this question can come. It could come this way, right, with a list of options by the side. You have A to I, or it could come with some questions where you have to fill in the gap, so to speak. All right, so you would have lists of options. For that type of question, you would find the instruction about word limit. So you would often find instructions such as write no more than 2 words, no more than 1 word, or no more than 3 words and or a number, depending on the question you're answering. Okay, so but this one, we see that it is a list of options, and that is vital for a purpose. So it means, for instance, that if you listen to the audio and you discover that, say, the answer to question 14, for instance, is computers, you would be wrong to write computers. Yes, if you write computers as in C-O-M-P, you spell it out, you're wrong. All right, because you are expected to write the option, the letter, right? You're expected to write the letter, not the word. So what you should be writing would be C, not computers. So you need to take care not to do that. So let's move on. And the next thing you want to do is to analyze the questions before the recording starts. So you'll be given some time to read the questions. That time you're given to read the question is crucial. It is of utmost importance. I tell my students that if you don't utilize that time well, you don't make good use of it, and you just waste it a while away that time, you can as well just give up and go home, because you'll be confused. You will not know what is going on. It would look like, gibberish to you. So you have to make good use of that time. That time is the time you have to read the instructions. And when you're done reading the instructions and you understand what you're asked to do, you want to move on to the plan in this case and study it. All right, study it. Read every single thing, every piece of information you can find, all right? But there are certain information that are foremost that you need to pay more attention to. For instance, you would usually find a starting point in planned questions. This might not be common for map questions because you'd find more of streets and things like that. But for planned questions, where you would usually find the plan of a building or maybe even a sitting arrangement, you could find a starting point. And as you can see in this question, the starting point is the entrance, right? So you want to take good note of that. And then there are also other reference points that you need to familiarize yourself with, or else you'll be lost when the recording starts and they say, for instance, go to the seminar room, or for instance, they say, by the seminar room. You're just looking for, where's the seminar room? You shouldn't be doing that when the recording is playing. The recording will not wait for you to find the seminar room. It will keep playing. So you should know where all the major landmarks are. So study it. Look at what is going on. You have the seminar room, the library area where you have fiction, non-fiction. You have the library office, librarian's desk. Study the map. Have a good sense of what is going on there, what it's about. All right. Of course, you would start with the title. You have title here, Town Library. So that is always a good place to start. Study it. And then you should also study the list of options. Very important, especially in a question like this. It's important you study the list of options so that when you hear the answer, you know immediately which option is correct. Okay. So read through A to I. You have art collection, children's books, computers, local history collection, and so on. So you want to do that. All right. Another thing you want to do is to predict possible answers. So if it's easy for you to do that while studying the map, you could just imagine, okay, what could be here? You have the librarian's desk. What could be above it? Could it be computers or tourist information? You could just make a guess. At this point, you're not guessing to get it right. And that should not be your focus anyway, because why? You're still going to listen to the recording, and that's where the answer is. So you're only doing that to, first of all, ensure that the question is much foregrounded in your mind so that you can remember it. And then it also helps you to stay on track when you start listening. Also, for map and plan question, one thing you cannot but do is to be familiar with signposting expressions and directional language. So you would often hear expressions like turn right, go left, opposite. You would hear things like north, especially for map questions. You would always find a compass at the top. It could be top right corner or top left corner, right? So you would often find north, east, south, and you hear things like southeast, northeast. So you need to be familiar with words like that, because it is your ability to follow through with those words that would most likely lead you to your answer, because that's what they are doing. They are leading you to your answer. Now, having said all of that, let me emphasize that you have to move with the voice, move with the narrator. Move with the narrator. Very important. Don't just be an onlooker while the voice is talking. You are an active part of this test, of this description. So when the voice says at the entrance, just make sure you situate yourself at the entrance. You shouldn't be wandering around, or your mind wanders around. If your mind is wandering, that's a fundamental problem. Okay, in the listening test, you need 100% attention. All right. So if the voice, the narrator says at the seminar room, make sure you are right there at the seminar room. Move with the voice. Okay. Don't be an onlooker. Move as the voice moves. It says you go past, then just imagine yourself going past. All right. It helps you to stay in the process, and you can easily, get your answers. So always be alert and be involved. Okay. And lastly, note that the answers will come in the order of the questions. So you would hear the answer to question 11 before you hear the answer to question 12, before you hear the answer to question 13, and so on. You would not hear the answer to question 15 first before you hear 12, and then you hear 13, and then you hear 11. No, it's not going to happen like that. Okay. So it's always in that order, and that takes a lot of pressure off you, right? So that's the good news. Okay, so now having said all of that, let us move into the test proper. All right, so I would end this video here, and in the next part, we will actually solve this problem. All right, so see you in the next video.